decision item number 1 to adopt board policy ACB with AR.
All right, so what you have in front of you is OSBA's sample policy, just with our logo. This has been this is a temporary rule. They expect it to become permanent, but all schools are expected to adopt a policy, and it goes into effect January of 2021. This also becomes a Division 22 reportable standard. So we'll get to the Division 22 report later, but it will become something that we have to provide compliance for. And so this would be our compliance piece for this new Division 22 standard. It also becomes with a bias complaint procedure that is also included with the policy, and that is on the next few pages. Just it describes in full how someone would go about making a complaint based on this policy and how it would be expected to be handled.
Thank you for that explanation. Is there a motion?
I guess I just have a little bit of concern when it includes like the Confederate flag. I don't see how that really falls into the hate symbols personally, because it's not directed at any specific nationalities per se.
Well, I
It's a
guess,
part of American history that, you know, I don't know, it just seems like.
so a little background on this. This is a policy that came about and is very student driven. And one of the things that got it to this point is that 46% of the students in Oregon are students of color.
Or what?
Students of
Oh,
color.
okay, yeah.
And the Confederate flag has been co-opted, for lack of a better term, by groups that have acted in ways that target students of color. And these incidents maybe not happened in our area necessarily, and maybe even not a lot in Oregon, but nationally they've been happening all over the US. And students feel like the presence of this flag is a reminder of a time when they were less than these students of color, that they were not considered equal, and a reminder that we still, these are students' words, a reminder that we are still not welcome. So I think it's really a policy that we need to put on student goggles when we think about this, and how we want our students to feel in our schools.
I have a question too. What about if a student wears a cross and another student is offended because maybe they don't believe it?
Or anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Or the Star of David.
So I would say, that doesn't exclude people, though.
There are some kids that I think are gonna carry this as far as they can. And let's say I look at Clint, and that kid is of a color, and he might say, hey, you did that. How is that gonna be, whose side are we gonna take?
I don't think there should be a side at all.
I know.
I think what they're saying is, the Confederate flag, whether we like it or not, represents a time in our country when it represented a war, and a side that lost, and a side that stood for some policies, laws that we've gotten rid of, rightfully so. But for kids of color, seeing that reminds them that people still believe in that. And what they're trying to express to administration is that it makes them feel unwanted when those things are allowed, something that is so visual. I mean, none of us would ever think the swastika is acceptable. It represented in another country, so maybe not us personally in the US, but a group of people that were attacked or unwanted in their country. And people of color, particularly our Black students, feel the very same way about the Confederate flag, whether we agree with them or not. But that's how they feel, and they've been very loud and clear about how they feel as a group. When they see that, when they see their classmates wear it, when they, it's not that they don't think it doesn't belong in curriculum. It absolutely belongs in curriculum when we teach. But should they have to come to school and see it in their classrooms or, on a flag in the parking lot?
These same students that possibly are offended by the Confederate flag, why are they then not equally offended by the Oregon flag? Because when this state was created, blacks were not allowed.
I don't have a good answer for that, Clinton, but I do believe that the Oregon flag is associated with that. Oftentimes, the Confederate flag is used by groups that still are very much white supremacist. It is used, whether we like it or not. It's used by groups in the media, in protest, that make students feel like this is a reminder of where they belong.
There's a sentence in here that says, what is it? That this could face legal challenges, and I'm certain it will. You can't get me to back this. I will not vote for it. It goes beyond what I believe is constitutional.
And you absolutely have a vote. This is a policy that we're expected to adopt a policy.
You're gonna have to change your expectations as far as I'm concerned.
Quite honestly, we did this backwards. We're having discussion before the motion is on the floor. Policy is not yet before the board. I have not heard a motion, and without the motion, we can't pass on it. So I will call for a motion. If I do not hear one, we will move on. Is there Anybody willing to make a motion on this issue?
Is it, what's our timeline on this?
The policy is expected to go into practice. Well, it becomes a reportable Division II standard in January of 2021.
So I guess my question too would be, what is it why would we want to keep the Confederate flag present in our schools?
It's not only the Confederate flag, it's also what's the next thing and what's the next thing and where does it end? And I don't have any faith in where it ends.
And I understand that point, but I don't see how, as adults who lead a school who are trying to get kids to be accepting of one another, allowing the Confederate flag in our schools being acceptable. And I mean, it's just my only stance is that it represents people who were fighting to keep slavery. And how, I mean, I'm not a person of color, but I'm totally against that. And I could totally see how it would offend people of color. And offend maybe is too light. I mean, intimidate is probably another word.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, this is just coming from my perspective because I have never really been in the South where I think it's probably a lot stronger influence. And so probably just from my perspective, I just don't see it as a sign of hate because I've never really been in that environment per se. So I may, you know.
Well, and I will also share that we've had students who I have an example of in the past where a student wore it and it caused quite a disruption in the classroom because you had students who were offended by it. And so I agree that we can go too far the wrong way with getting offended by everything, but it's hard for me to compare things like the cross to things like the Confederate flag or the Nazi symbol, where you have groups that were defeated at one time in history that represented something that you know many years later we know to be wrong and against what I guess we're fighting for people to be equal.
Yeah. Again, we're putting discussion before the motion. Motion has not been made as such.
Can only the board motion, or can we motion to move it forward?
Only board members. So that motion fails.
Okay.
Set date, time, and location for superintendent evaluation document work session.